Welcome into Going for the Green as we are helping you get ready for the 2021 U.S. Open, where 156 golfers will compete at Torrey Pines South Course, where the U.S. Open tees off this Thursday, June 17th. Drew Dinsick, Will Gray, and I am Sara Perlman with you for the show. Drew, Will, how we doing?
Oh, super, super well. It is a beautiful week down here in Southern California. The U.S. Open returns to Torrey Pines, one of my favorite places to watch golf. The views are going to be spectacular. The field looks so competitive. I am absolutely fired up for this tournament and happy to be with you guys.
Yeah, equally fired up here. The USGA is going to be able to do whatever they want with this golf course because it looks like the weather is going to be either 75 or 77 and not a cloud in the sky. So Incredible. It is absolutely going to be under their control. Fun to see this tournament back at a familiar place and a place where a lot of players have some success.
Now, in a very loaded U.S. Open field, Jon Rahm is the betting favorite at 10-1 at PointsBet. Rahm, of course, coming off of a forced withdrawal at the Memorial Tournament. He's trying to win his first major at Torrey Pines. Other favorites we're looking here include Bryson at 16-1, DJ 16-1, Brooks Koepka 18-1, all the way down to Patrick Cantlay at 25-1. We'll get into our favorite bets, novelty props, and betting tips throughout the show. But I do begin with you here, Will, because Jon Rahm is the betting favorite. He's coming out of quarantine. He was playing really well. 6-shot lead at Memorial, forced to withdraw. And now he's out of quarantine, gets to practice a little bit this week. He does know the course, won there in 2017. But is there any concern for you about his performance after all of this quarantine?
I think, Sarah, when it comes to Jon Rahm, you're going to have to handicap the intangibles because when you look on paper, I know we've talked about this, off screen before, that everything matches up for Jon Rahm. His game fits the U.S. Open. He's got the length off the tee to really handle Torrey Pines, as demonstrated by his exemplary record at the Farmers Insurance Open. But you've got the emotional side of things is going one of two ways. You've got the spotlight bright on him as he looks to win a major for the first time. It's hard to be an outsized betting favorite at a major without a major to your credit, and that's the position he finds himself in. And then you have the quarantine situation. We thought he might be limited in practice. He got his negative tests. He was able to have a full run of practice at Torrey Pines. Is he going to come out, like man on fire and just really try and go scorched earth on Torrey like he did at the Memorial? It's going to be interesting to see. I don't know that I love him at this price. It's tough for me to sit there and say that Jon Rahm is going to win this tournament 11 or 12% of the time. Parity reigns right now on the PGA Tour, and so that's why I think I'm going to be looking elsewhere among the favorites on the board.
Drew, I see you nodding your head, possibly in agreement that you like Jon Rahm, but 10-1 seems a little short. How do you evaluate and look at Jon Rahm for the U.S. Open?
Yeah, believe it or not, Will and I have been talking about Jon Rahm's 2021 campaign going back to February. And when you looked at the calendar, it was pretty obvious that you circled that U.S. Open. You were like, holy smokes, it's at Torrey Pines this year. That place plays to his game perfectly. Like he can build up throughout the year and then just peak at, schedule his whole calendar to be peaking at that moment. And sure enough, watching him at the Memorial, it felt like all the pieces are coming into place. Jon Rahm, U.S. Open, here we go. And then the COVID really has thrown a wrinkle into this. Obviously, I don't expect him to have much physical issues because he was asymptomatic and he clearly seems like he's in perfectly good health. But the likelihood you get a little rust early, I think, is high. I think he could come out of the gate and he could have a tough round one. And just in general, we've seen him at some of these higher profile tournaments sort of build into the tournament and really have his best stuff on the weekend. And so I think at this point, betting, looking specifically for price, I could not advocate taking Rahm at 10-1. But if he's within about 6 strokes of the lead after 2 rounds of golf and his price is in the 20 to 40-1 range, then it's like bombs away Rahm.
Yeah, we are going to get into, as I mentioned, our best bets for the U.S. Open, but it does seem like we're on agreement. 10-1 seems a little bit short, even though he is a clear favorite for having won there before. Now let's talk about Phil Mickelson here, because on May 14th, he did receive a special exemption from the USGA into the 121st U.S. Open Championship. Didn't need it. 9 days later, he assured himself of 4 more invitations after that, because he became the oldest major champion in history with his huge PGA Championship win at Kiowa. Now, This is a U.S. Open title, the only major that's keeping him from a career Grand Slam. We know the home story and that angle. I will go back to you here, Drew. Is it Phil's time? Can he win the U.S. Open and secure a Grand Slam here?
I'm not seeing it, and it's tough because this would, all of the pieces were sort of falling into place. But coming off of the PGA Championship, a little bit of a letdown potentially after that, and just in general, he's been pretty vocal about how he has not really loved this course setup. They've changed the Torrey Pines for a couple of reasons over the years, and Phil Mickelson is kind of soured on this course. I right now have him as more likely to miss the cut than come into the top 20 even. So I think I'll be steering clear of Phil, and I think the betting market has priced him relatively correctly. I wouldn't say that there's a ton of value either way, betting him or fading him this week.
80-1. Well, I'd like to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a higher number than we saw a couple of days ago. He got down into the 60 or 66-1 range after winning the PGA at about 150-1. So I'm with Drew. I think that, we're going to talk about Brooks and Bryson in a little bit about who lives in whose head rent free. The USGA lives in Phil's head rent free, and Torrey Pines lives in Phil's head rent free. That is not a good combination this week. This is a tournament where he has struggled recently. He really hasn't been in the mix since winning the Open back in 2013, and then that created this drama and storyline of, can he get not only the one that got away, but now it's the one that will round out the career Grand Slam. The results have not been there to pan out, and I just can't justify betting him at a third or even a half of a price that we saw at Kiowa. That was an amazing performance, and I just don't know that that's one that we can rely on. He missed the cut at Colonial a couple weeks ago, and I'm with Drew. I think that we can talk about this more in a bit, but I could see Phil watching on TV along with all the rest of us on Saturday.
Right. Well, Mickelson has finished second, a record 6 times at the U.S. Open. And to your point, Will, the most recent in 2013. We will move along here. And I see Drew laughing because I think he's fading Phil Mickelson here. And we'll get into more of the fades throughout the show. But Will, you touched on it a little bit. Guys do see this course every January. It's going to play different. The U.S. Open does return to Torrey Pines now for the first time since 2008. It is played on the South Course on the La Jolla Coast, and at the Farmers Insurance Open, it's played on both Torrey courses, and the scoring average on the South is always higher than it is on the North. How is this course going to play different for the U.S. Open than it does in January? And with that being said, who does this play to the strengths of?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting test because, as you said, you've got guys like Tony Finau and Jon Rahm, Justin Rose, that are known entities that play this often. You've got other Europeans that are seeing it for the first time, top guys like Fleetwood, Hatton, Fitzpatrick. I was up at Congaree last weekend, and I talked to a few guys about how is it going to be different, and I think that the universal expectation is the fairways are going to be more narrow and the rough is going to be more thick. Those are the calling cards of a USGA event, of a US Open. But when you look at what might be the same, what you could get some correlation from, a good voice on this was Brandt Snedeker, a 2-time champion at the Farmers. He said, look at the greens. The Poa annua greens are fickle. They are going to be very tough to putt on, especially in the afternoon. There's going to be no such thing as a gimme inside 3 or 4 feet even. And I think that as he said as well, you look at who can putt POA, specifically if you look at who can putt well on the West Coast POA. And so you can look at some of those filters on our Edge Driver tools at NBC Sports Edge, and you see some of these guys that bubble up to the top. And I look to guys, maybe not necessarily who are at the top, but who have had a positive experience on West Coast POA greens. Rory McIlroy ticks that box. Jason Kokrak, another guy that I like, has also got some positive putting stats on this particular surface. So listen, it's the US Open. Everyone's going to miss fairways. I think that when it comes to Torrey, there's an emphasis on brute strength off the tee, because if you're coming out of the rough, dude, you want to have an 8-iron in your hand or a 5-iron in your hand. So the long guys are gonna play well. And if you look at the recent winners at this event, it's all the longest hitters on tour: DJ, Koepka, Bryson, Gary Woodland is not short. So that's a definite trend that I think you can play on. But then I also think it's important to look on the greens, who can handle the POA, and who can, as Snedeker put it, who can hit a good putt and watch it not go in and still be okay with it, because this is going to be a test that's also in between the ears for everyone this week.
And DJ, Bryson, Brooks, the guys that you've just mentioned had been bet heavily. We're going to find out exactly who is being bet a ton at PointsBet when Teddy Greenstein joins us next right here. Sharpen your handicap for Torrey Pines by utilizing the new collection of golf betting tools available exclusively to NBC Sports Edge premium subscribers. DFS users can view player projections across lineup optimizers, while the Edge Driver tool allows users to create customized searches and analyze the betting favorites across hundreds of variables. Use the code GREEN10 to get 10% off any monthly or annual subscription. We'll be right back.
Welcome to NBC Sports Edge, your one stop for everything fantasy, DFS, and more. Get up-to-date news and insights from our award-winning analysts. Looking to raise your game even more? NBC Sports Edge Plus helps you level up with an array of premium tools and resources keeping you ahead of the pack. Learn more at NBCSportsEdge.com.
Thanks for joining us here on Going for the Green. And we're lucky and happy to be joined by a good friend of the show, Teddy Greenstein, who, of course, is the senior editor and does tons of awesome content for PointsBet Sportsbook. And we love to be able to get behind the book and see where a lot of action has been coming in. And the U.S. Open, it seems like could be wide open, but the favorites have been bet along with quite a few long shots from what I understand. So I do have to ask you right off the top, who are the biggest liabilities? What have you guys seen a lot of money coming in on?
Hello, Sara and crew. Greetings from Torrey Pines, the media center here. I got to get outside soon when this is over because it looks nice out there. Sara, our three biggest liabilities, Will Zalatoris, Patrick Reed, and Jason Kokrak. I'd say I'm surprised by two of them, but not Kokrak, considering how well he played a couple weeks ago. And he's obviously a long guy, so he could have some success out here. And I think also in terms of popular picks lately, line movers, guys who the price is shortened in the last 24 hours. Adam Scott from plus 10,000 to plus 8,000, so 100 to 1 to 80 to 1. Colin Morikawa from 25 to 1 to 22, and perhaps people are paying attention to Will Gray's selection of Victor Hovland because he has dipped a bit from 30 to 1 to 28.
You're tipping the hand for me here, Teddy. I like it. There are some guys off that list that I think make a lot of sense. Patrick Reed was the winner at Torrey Pines just in January, so I think you're going to see a lot of bettors flock to that name just looking off of that from recognition purposes. But then you also look at Adam Scott. If you look in the Edge Driver tool that we have on NBC Sports Edge, you look over the last 40 rounds or since 2014, just on the Torrey Pines South course, he leads the way in terms of total strokes gained. In 2019, he would have won this event were it not for a record-breaking performance from Justin Rose. So definitely makes sense from that perspective. But I want to get more into behind the curtain zone with you guys at PointsBet. What are some of the long shots that you guys are seeing? Obviously, you got 156 guys in the field. There are some names that even the people that follow golf regularly aren't going to recognize. Are any of those kind of catching some bettors' eyes? Yeah, just like you loved Wilco Nienaber last week. Thanks for that selection, Will. There are some interesting selections, some big bets this week that took me by surprise. Justin Sue is 100 to 1. We've taken a wager of $150 on him. Robbie Shelton, 1,000 to 1, I should say, 1,000 to 1 for Justin Sue. So that would pay $150,000. Robbie Shelton's bet of 130 would pay $130K. Harris English, somebody's wagered 1,000 on him. Harris, you guys know, played great for about 63 holes last week in South Carolina and then completely melted down. But hopefully he will be fiery this week. And the largest I've seen, one of the largest I've seen, is Rory McIlroy. Somebody's wagered $1,250 at 17 to 1. So that would pay out about $21K.
Will, is that you, by the way?
We'll take this offline, but no, that was not me or my conglomerate hedge fund getting it on Rory. We waited for the 20 to 1 that PointsBet is not nice enough to offer. Thank you very much.
Interesting. So one of the golfers that I've seen across the market, just wild disagreement. Some places as low as 15 to 1, other, and some of the kind of the data golfs of the world, the folks that are kind of putting out projections and percentages and stuff are kind of very high on fee now. They have them as a top 5. And you guys are sitting here at the market best price of 28 to 1. Have you seen anyone start taking nibbles at that fee now number? Any building a little momentum here?
Well, there's a wise bettor out there who wagered $500 on him and got 33 to 1. So I don't know exactly when that was, but but congratulations to that fella. I mean, if you can get Finau at a good top 5, top 10, or top 20 price, I feel like you, if you've been doing that over the last year or so, you are a rich man and can maybe afford to jet out here to Torrey Pines.
Teddy, we do know that Brooks Koepka missed the cut last week at the Palmetto Championship. Half of his 8 PGA Tour wins are in majors, including back-to-back U.S. Open wins in 2017 and 2018. We've seen tons of drama between Brooks Koepka and we know with Bryson, and there is availability to bet the option head-to-head with Bryson versus Brooks. We know it's a rivalry. Has that been getting action at PointsBet? Are people taking one or the other?
They really are, Sara, and I think our weight of money on here is pretty surprising. So it's 70% in the Brooks camp. I think people just feel like, and look, I think some of that was before he missed the cut last weekend, or maybe people look at it like, hey, this is Brooks's brand. He's missed the cut. That gives him more prep time. That means he was able to make that long trip from South Carolina to California earlier. So maybe it's actually a plus that he missed the cut there. We all saw what he did at Kiowa. So maybe he's going to say that the knee is still preventing him from, kneeling down exactly as he wants to read these greens. But if he was in good form a month ago, there's no reason to think he's not going to contend this week. So yeah, 70% on Brooks on the no juice bet with Bryson there.
Okay, interesting. I'll have to ask the guys later in the show if they have a play on that when we get to the props. Before we let you go, have you seen any notable line movement in the sense after Congaree, whether a guy became more favored, shot up the list, or vice versa? DJ top 10, we talked about Brooks missing the cut. He's still a favorite here at the U.S. Open. What kind of movement have you seen over the last week?
Certainly Garrick Higo with his victory, he dipped from 125 to 1 to 75 to 1, and I just checked, he's at 66 right now.
Wow.
One other thing I think is worth mentioning, because you guys were talking about John Rahm earlier, and is he worth it at 10 to 1 for an outright? There are many other ways to bet him. You can bet him as the top continental European player at minus 110. He has to beat 14 guys, but after Hovland and Sergio, there's not too much to worry about there. Plus, we have a double-up hidden boost that will be on the range that we'll be putting out Tuesday afternoon, and that pays twice the payout on his top 10. So his top 10, I believe, is plus 105. We're offering that at plus 210 for a top 10 on John Rahm, but you have to watch the range because it's a hidden booster.
Before we let you go, Will and Drew, I'm going to put you on the spot. What's the most surprising thing Teddy talked about? Was it Brooks getting most of the bets? Was it the biggest liabilities? I'm genuinely curious.
I was interested to see that people are still going back to the well and Will Zalatoris. I wonder when we're going to stop it. Like, I get that he has been a mainstay, finished second at the Masters. I need him to win something else before I'm betting on him to win a major.
Yeah, same boat. Like if you were to tell me Will Zalatoris is taking all the top 20 money that you can write, then I wouldn't be surprised. But that people are still running to the window to bet him outright is a surprise.
It just speaks to who people want to root for. And that's where I think it is also with Brooks. I think that explains why it's 70% on him and 30% on Bryson. People just want to be in the camp of the cool guy, or in Will Zalatoris's vein, they just want to be with the goofy-looking fun guy.
Teddy, one more for you before we let you go. You're out there. You're man on the scene on the South Course. What sticks out to you after seeing this course? I know it looks different and feels different in the USGA's hands than maybe what we're used to seeing at the Farmers Insurance Open.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's a case, Will, where we go to some majors and you don't know what the score is going to be. Like Aaron Hills was 16 under for the championship number, and then there was an overcorrection the next year. But as you mentioned, I mean, they can do whatever they want with it here. The weather's going to be perfect. They know how it plays in January. Obviously, it's a par 72 for the Farmers. It's par 71 this week. So I think it's going to be tough, but not over the top. So I would think maybe 4 or 5 under is going to take it down.
Teddy, we are all so jealous that you were there. Enjoy Torrey Pines, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds great, Sara. See you guys.
Still more to come. We have to get into our favorite props and bets and even break down a little fantasy action for the U.S. Open. If you're looking for even more betting coverage on the green and beyond, you need to check out our podcast, Drew and I, every day, Bet the Edge, powered by PointsBet. Monday to Friday. It gives you a ton of actionable information that you will need to wager with confidence. Our crew provides you with unique statistical data, trends, projections. We use our Edge betting tools. And of course, we have a ton of access with PointsBet, our partner, to help us with real-time, live, updated odds. So whether you're eyeing the futures market, looking at player props, targeting some over-unders, or on the fence with an against the spread bet, give our podcast a listen to give you that extra edge. We will be right back. Well, guys, this is always my favorite part of the show on Going for the Green, because I get to pick your brain on my favorite thing, prop bets. Will Gray, Drew Dinsick, I'm Sara Perlman. Thanks for being with us as we get you ready for the U.S. Open. And the first thing I do want to talk about is the finisher markets, because I believe last time you guys hit both your finisher props, and these are some very fun ways to get involved, use the Edge Finder and the Edge tools, and kind of see where you can make some money without picking an outright winner, which is so difficult for these tournaments. So, Will, I will start with you. In the finisher market, what stands out? What have you bet on so far?
Yeah, I've got a couple of guys that I have my attention on for this particular market, and I'm going to lead with Jason Kokrak. We mentioned him earlier. He's out around 66 or 70 to 1 to win. He just won at Colonial, but I really like him at plus 525 for a top 10 finish. He has always been one of the longest players on the PGA Tour. That length off the tee was a big reason why he won at Colonial, edging Jordan Spieth in the process. But the reason that he has leveled up, so to speak, this year on the PGA Tour is on the greens. 2 years ago, he was 103rd in putting. This season, he is 5th on the PGA Tour in putting. A remarkable turnaround on the greens, and he has some success at this event. 3 straight years, he has finished inside the top 30. And more importantly, Sara, he's broken par on the South Course on the weekend 5 out of 6 days. That's going to be really important because that's when it plays the most difficult. And then one more for you is Johnny Vegas, coming off a T2 finish last week at Congaree. I like him at plus 500 for a top 20. He's a little bit further down the list, but he's another guy who's sneaky long. He's inside the top 15 on the PGA Tour in driving distance. He's playing well, 2 top 10s in his last 3 starts, and has some serious knowledge and some results from Torrey Pines from the Farmers event.
Well, I love it, especially because both guys you gave out over 5 to 1. So that's some great plus money for the finisher market. I do a show every day with Drew Dinsick. It's no secret. And he was all over a miss the cut for one of our favorite bets of the week on our show. So, Drew, I know you might have other plays, but tell me a little bit about Lee Westwood again.
Yeah, well, I played a couple of miss the cut parlays because, as Will brought up on our show yesterday, this is one of the most difficult fields to make the cut. Very, very competitive field overall. Small percentage of the field goes through to the weekend. So I think you can absolutely attack this market. I think Phil Mickelson is worth a shot at plus 120. I think Tommy Fleetwood is worth a shot at plus 130. But my favorite to miss the cut prop is Lee Westwood at plus 100. This number is really is something else. When I consider the what Lee Westwood has been up to this last week, congratulations to him. He got married in Las Vegas. Congratulations to him. He went to all of the shows, all of the hockey games, and did lots of drinking and gambling. Looked like just an amazing weekend for a 48-year-old out at life, living large out in the desert. And then, got in the private jet and flew to San Diego for his honeymoon. Tough for me to see how you kind of then, pull it together and compete, for a major tournament at this, at this level, considering how difficult it's going to be to make the cut. I mean, I think Lee Westwood is still one of my favorite players. He's a fun guy, obviously, but I don't expect to see him here this weekend.
Yeah, I made a joke. We could totally root for him in the future, but probably not. Probably going to be a little tired because I'm tired after a long weekend and I'm not 48 yet. Credit to Lee Westwood. Let's go back now to the novelty props. People that are watching us live and even after want to bet on every prop they can get their hands on for golf, especially the 2021 U.S. Open. I know we talked about the finisher props, but now any novelty prop, anywhere you want to go here, Will.
All right, Sara, I've got another one with some pretty good ROI for you. We're going north of the border once again. Top Canadian. I like Taylor Pendrith. Plus 650 is the highest odds of the 4-man race. So listen, you're going to have Corey Connors at about minus 150. He's leading the market for good reason. You're going to have to dodge Corey Connors at some point to win this. But Adam Hadwin has been struggling. Mackenzie Hughes has missed 5 straight cuts. Taylor Pendrith is averaging 320 yards off the tee on the Korn Ferry Tour. That on the PGA Tour would rank ahead of everyone not named Bryson DeChambeau. So he can launch it. This is a course that, again, plays into the hands of the guys that are going to be long off the tee. He was actually the low Canadian at this event last year at Wingfoot, finished T23. So I really think that as long as Corey Connors has one iffy round in there in the mix, I think Pendrith makes the cut, and you could definitely get a very sizable return for a four-man head-to-head, so to speak.
God, super fun one.
Yeah, Taylor Pendrith plus 650. What about you? A lot of big shoes to fill here after that one.
I know. I like Taylor Pendrith. Actually, it's top. No, I'm just kidding. That was a great look though, and I'm gonna without a doubt be tailing that one. Teddy mentioned Jon Rahm, top continental European. That is on my card at -110. I like Mark Leishman to have a nice weekend as top Australian at plus 250. I think this course suits him well. I've played him in a couple head-to-head matchups. Also, Mark Leishman should have a nice time at the U.S. Open. But my favorite novelty prop, and this one is a long shot, but I like will there be a playoff? Yes, at plus 400. So 4-1 chance. So that's telling you there's a 20% chance there's going to be a playoff. What do we know about this tournament? It's very competitive. There is not a lot of gap between these players at the top of this bracket, and then scoring is going to be at a premium. There's the likelihood that somebody really just catches fire and runs away with this thing, I think is relatively low. I think you're going to have a decent quality bunch of players kind of in the -2 to -4 range fighting it out at the end of this tournament. And we're going to have our first major playoff in quite a while, the way I see things, at least more than a 20% chance, which is what plus 400 implies. So I'll take there will be a playoff, yes, at plus 400.
Yeah, and that's fun to root for. Okay, love the 4-1 odds as well. Well, I could always tell when you have more props up your sleeve. So before we get to our next guest, I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, well, I like what Drew's going with. I do note that the last time we had a playoff at the U.S. Open, it was, of course, 2008, Torrey Pines. It's been a while, but we're back on this course, so who knows? Maybe we'll get that Tiger Rocco magic. Another bet that is not quite as much of a novelty, but I really like this head-to-head of Patrick Reed -130 over Tyrrell Hatton. I know that Drew spoke earlier about fading Tommy Fleetwood with a potential missed cut. Hatton is in the same boat as one of these top Europeans that has never seen this golf course because they're busy playing the European Tour's Middle East swing during the Farmers in late January, early February. He has missed the cut in all three majors last year. I know he's played a little better recently. He finished T2 at Congaree, but I think Patrick Reed, the number is shaded because, as we spoke about with Teddy, he did win at Torrey Pines earlier this year, but I think this is a way to back Patrick Reed, who is a solid player, especially in the U.S. Open, has a good track record at Torrey, and maybe get a little bit better money if Hatton has a rough go.
I hope everyone that's watching us live has their pen out and taking legitimate notes like I am. So many good props and great advice there. This week, NBC Sports Predictor, powered by PointsBet, features a special golf pick'em contest for the U.S. Open with a massive $100,000 jackpot. Be sure to get your picks in before Thursday morning for a chance to win big. Best bets and daily fantasy tips still to come. Stick around. You are watching Going for the Green.
Don't leave money on the table, no matter your sport. The Predictor app has got you covered. Tens of thousands in cash prizes up for grabs every week. And it's free to play. Download the NBC Sports Predictor app powered by PointsBet now.
I bring in our next guest, who I am so excited to have, Patrick McDonald, because I feel like every time we have him on these Going for the Green shows or my show, he gives out awesome insight and honestly long shot winners. So we welcome him back. No pressure there. Of course, Patrick McDonald, a member of NBC Sports EDGE, does awesome golf betting analysis for us. And you can see all of his stuff on NBCSportsEdge.com. Let's start in the daily fantasy world. And as we know, I love daily fantasy, and it's a lot of ways to get involved without necessarily being in the betting space. So for me, what I think is always the trickiest thing I want to start here is finding someone that could be faded, actually, because it's easy to give out the best players who always bring value to the table. But maybe there's some guys that are a little expensive that you think are not worth a shot in our daily fantasy lineups for the U.S. Open. Who are those?
Well, Sarah, thank you for the very kind introduction. I don't know if it's quite warranted, but I will try to live up to the hype so far. But at the top of the DFS board, I am trying to avoid Justin Thomas at $9,700 on DraftKings. As everyone has kind of picked up on over the last couple of months, Thomas has really struggled on the greens, and he showed it at the PGA Championship that if his ball striking isn't up to par, he really can't scramble his way into the weekend and kind of find something with his swing over the next 2 days and maybe backdoor top 10, something like that. And at a US Open, you're going to miss fairways, you're going to miss greens, and you're going to have a ton of 5 to 10 footers for par, possibly for bogey, to keep the momentum going, to salvage your round. And at the end of the day, I don't have faith in Justin Thomas making enough of those putts to stick around the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, Patrick, I'm with you on that. I know we often remember JT's success at the U.S. Open at Erin Hills, but I think he has struggled in some of the more traditional U.S. Open setups. And I do think it's interesting. He has not played the Farmers since 2015. So this is a course that doesn't necessarily make his annual rotation. One guy near the top that I'm looking to fade, it's more of an ownership fade, and it's Xander Schauffele. I don't think that Xander's necessarily going to have a bad week, but I think he is going to be a very popular play in DFS in that low $99,000 range, $9,300 on DraftKings. Has never finished worse than T6 in 4 U.S. Open appearances. He's a San Diego guy, finished T2 at this event in January. Before that, he did not have a very good record at Torrey Pines, had missed 4 or 5 cuts. But I just think everyone is going to flock to him as kind of that upper tier, mid-range option. And I think that you can go a lot of different directions. It's going to be a big week, a lot of entries. You need to have some lineups that they're unique. And I think that that's one way to make sure that you're going to stand out from the crowd is to avoid Xander.
Well, if we are looking for unique lineups, and Patrick, I did give you a lot of credit and hopefully pumped with confidence, because now this is where I lean on you. We need players that are going to present value. It is going to be loaded and very crazy and hectic to get different lineups, and whether you're on DraftKings or FanDuel or whatever you play. So if I'm looking to differentiate, but obviously find players that offer a ton of value, who are they?
Well, I pulled Kevin Streelman out of thin air at the PGA Championship, so I'll try to follow it up. And I'm going with Carlos Ortiz at 7,100. There's a ton of great players in that mid to lower 7,000 range. Major champions like Shane Lowry, Adam Scott, Stuart Sink, Gary Woodland, U.S. Open Championship. So I think Ortiz will be a bit overlooked. And at the Memorial, it wasn't Patrick Cantlay, it wasn't Colin Morikawa, but it was Carlos Ortiz who actually led the field in strokes gained approach by week's end. Yes, he's been struggling a bit on the greens, but I think a return to Torrey Pines and back on Poana putting surfaces should do him wonders. And let's not forget, this guy finished T29 at the Farmers in January, but he was actually the co-54-hole leader alongside Patrick Reed before falling off the pace on Sunday. I'm willing to overlook that one poor round. It was really just 2 or 3 blow-up holes, and I think he'll go well at Torrey this week.
Yeah, I admit I had totally forgotten about that Sunday melt from Carlos Ortiz. I don't remember what I had for lunch last week, let alone what Ortiz did in January at Torrey. But that was good. Good nugget there, Patrick. I'm going a little further down the list, and it's a guy that actually Teddy mentioned earlier in the show, and Justin Suh. He's a 1,000-to-1 long shot, but he's in that mid $6,000 range for DFS. And he's another guy that, like Carlos Ortiz, made the cut at the Farmers Insurance Open earlier this year, played well on Torrey. When you look in the Edge driver tools and you try and figure out who's putting well on West Coast POA, who has a good track record at Torrey, who can deal with, who gains strokes off the tee on courses longer than 7,500 yards like this one is. Justin Suh's name continues to trend inside the top 10, top 20, not one that you would expect to bubble up near the top. And he's a Southern California guy, went to USC. I think he could be in for a big week in not necessarily his hometown, but certainly his home area.
We will get into other guys that are in for a big week, because our final segment of the show coming up in just a second, we'll have everybody giving their favorite and best bets, who the outright winner will be, and of course, maybe a favorite prop bet. So stick around. In case you haven't heard by now, our Players News app is back, and it's better than ever. You can get all of our signature player news updates, favorite players, receive mobile alerts, and more with the new NBC Sports EDGE app. Just search for NBC Sports EDGE in the Apple App Store or Google Play App Store. Stick around.
Welcome to NBC Sports EDGE, your one stop for everything fantasy, DFS, and more. Get up-to-date news and insights from our award-winning analysts. Looking to raise your game even more? NBC Sports EDGE Plus helps you level up with an array of premium tools and resources keeping you ahead of the pack. Learn more at NBCSportsEdge.com.
Thank you to everyone joining us live here on Going for the Green as we are doing our best to get you ready for the 2021 U.S. Open and all of our best bets that go along with it. And of course, joining us on our brand new Edge YouTube channel. This is always, in my opinion, the trickiest but best part of the show because we have to give our best bets for the U.S. Open. So for now, I want to start with an outright winner. Everybody needs to give me a little reasoning here. Patrick, I'm actually going to start with you because you remain on our segment. I did, like I said, give you a lot of credit. You've been great at making picks here. So who do you like to win this weekend?
So I've been hesitant backing this player in the past just because his price has been so steep, but it's People's Open, and I'm jumping in on Jordan Spieth at plus 2,000. He's coming off a disappointing runner-up to Jason Kokrak at the Charles Schwab, but he followed it up with a top 20 finish at the Memorial. And his tee to green numbers have just been outstanding over the last 3 months. It's really just been his putter that has let him down. He should have won at Augusta. He probably should have been more competitive at the PGA Championship, but I think he finally figured that club out. He's gained strokes on the green in 7 out of the last 10 rounds. And guys, Jordan Spieth with a hot putter is a bad man. You don't want to face that guy at Torrey Pines. And if he brings it to Southern California, I think he's the guy to beat.
Well, Jordan Spieth 20-1.
We're all wondering, how can we follow up Phil Mickelson's win at the PGA in terms of dramatic storylines? Spieth winning this one might just do the trick. We'll have to see. I don't know that he's going to make my card, but Patrick does have a pretty good record here. So, listen, 5 out of the last 6 winners of this event have made this their first major championship victory. I think that continues. Give me Team Oslo. Victor Hovland, 28-1. Teddy gave away my winner earlier, but I'm still going to go with it. Listen, he won the U.S. Amateur up the road at Pebble. He was a runner-up at this event in January, has finished T12 and T13 at the U.S. Open each of the last 2 years. He was a chalk pick at the PGA a couple weeks ago because of the Paspalum grass. Now all of a sudden he's kind of floated down he was at 30-1 overnight, now down to 28-1. But I love his record in majors. He has never finished worse than T33 in a major championship across his 6 starts. He's a proven winner on the PGA Tour. I think his short game woes are going to be mitigated by the thick rough because everyone that misses these greens is going to be hacking and hoping, trying to get the ball up around the hole. I think that Victor Hovland is going to get his first major this week.
Okay, Drew, that leads me to you. Outright winner for the 2021 U.S. Open at Torrey Pines.
Yeah, in my heart, I still think Rahm ultimately takes home this trophy, but I could not advocate betting the price at 10-1. And since this is all about, you're playing the outright markets, you should be shopping price, not just picking players who you know. And the best price on the board currently at PointsBet that I could tell you is Xander Schauffele at 18-1. I make fair price for him plus 1250, so I have a couple percent win percent edge there on this one. It's another potential debutant here, and really I do think that that's how this tournament does break. I do think we will see a first-time major champion here. Guys like Rahm, Schauffele, even Hovland that Will brought up, I think are all realistic contenders here. Even Tony Finau, realistic contender here. So I think we'll get a first-time slam champion, and best price that I can see right now is Schauffele at 18-1.
Okay, so Xander Schauffele, 18-1. We have Victor Hovland, and of course now Jordan Spieth. Before I get to our favorite prop and we wrap up the show, I never got to ask you guys when we had Teddy on. There was that head-to-head market, Bryson or Brooks. Is anybody buying in on that? Are you taking one or the other?
I have a little bit of Brooks, but I wouldn't play it at the current price. I don't think. I think it's a pretty close matchup. I think Brooks is the superior player for this course. I think what we've seen from DeChambeau at major championships since his win has been pretty suspect. And so the idea that he's just going to flip the switch and have kind of his head about him in this tournament is tough for me to see.
Well, yeah, I learned my lesson, trying to expect Brooks Koepka to do anything but challenge at a major at the PGA. So I do think I'm going to take Brooks over Bryson. I think that some of the intangibles of, the social media scuffle that they're in, I lean more towards that being a distraction and an issue for Bryson, more so than Brooks. I do think his game suits the toughest and most difficult tests on tour. I'm not reading too much into his miscut at Congaree, and I think that he's going to get the best of it.
Okay, so it does seem like you guys are in agreement, Patrick. I will get your thoughts. We gave out the outright winner. Let me hear your thoughts on Brooks and Bryson, Patrick, and also your favorite prop on the board available at PointsBet.
Yeah, I agree with Drew and Will there. I'm probably going to stay away from it right now, but I think Brooks would be the play if I had to make a selection. Just his U.S. Open track record. I mean, he's gone first, runner-up in his last 3. So tough mountain to climb if you're Bryson. For my favorite prop, I'm going to go with Louis Oosthuizen as a top 20 finish at plus 175. I learned my lesson with my top 10 pick on Bubba at the PGA. Going to be a bit more conservative this time. I actually don't mind him at plus 5,000 as well outright, but we're going to stick to our guns. And he's just a cut-making machine at major championships. He hasn't missed the weekend since the 2017 Open Championship, and he's arguably playing the best golf of his career. Obviously, the runner-up at the PGA. He was 3rd behind Bryson and Wolf last year at Winged Foot. And besides that, he has 3 other top 20 finishes and 2 T23s. So he's knocking right on the door of the top 20 year after year. And I think the knock on Louis has always been his motivation levels, right? He'd rather be on his farm, on his tractor, just hanging out. But Garrett Higgo's win last week, I think, will serve as an extra little motivation for Louis. He is still yet to win on U.S. soil, and I think he's going to try to change that next week or this week.
Top 20 finish plus 175. Will, you gave out a lot of awesome prop bets earlier, but now I need you to pick your absolute favorite and best prop bet for the weekend.
Sara, this is one as soon as the putt went in on the 18th hole at Kiowa and Phil Mickelson won the PGA, my mind went to what number are they going to hang on him to miss the cut at Torrey? Because this is just going the other way. Drew mentioned it earlier. This is the hardest cut to make in golf. Every PGA Tour event is top 65 in ties. The PGA Championship was top 70. This is top 60 in ties out of 156-man field. If you're looking to bet the make-miss cut prop board, go on the miss cut side all the way down because that's where the value is going to be. The folks at Data Golf put out some great stuff. They've got Phil at about 52.48 to make the cut, and PointsBet is hanging plus 120 on him to miss the cut. That's where I'm going. I thought if I could get plus money on Phil missing the cut, I would be there, and here we are at plus 120. The game does not fit the U.S. Open. His game has not fit Torrey Pines since the Reese Jones redesign. The storyline is there, all the San Diego stuff, but he's going to be watching from home over the weekend.
And Drew pointed out earlier in the show, and it's been well documented, that Phil Mickelson is not a fan of Torrey Pines since the redesign. So to miss the cut, plus 120. Drew, favorite prop. Where are we going?
I'm going back to the well with my guy Joaquin Niemann. Still expecting this breakout season from him this year. Love what he's doing to tweak his game, who he's working with, and in terms of stroke. And I would take him as top South American player at plus 110. Relatively small field. He's up against Jonathan Vegas, Sebastian Munoz, Fabian Gomez, and Luis Fernando Barco. Joaquin Niemann at plus 110 is the best player of that crew by a meaningful amount in terms of my projections for this course. And I would have made him about a 55% chance to come out on top here. So plus 110 is my favorite look on the board.
Okay. Gentlemen, thank you for all the insight as we get ready for the U.S. 2021 Open, and good luck with all your plays.
Yep.
For Will Gray, Drew Dinsick, Patrick McDonald, and all of us here with NBC Sports Edge, thank you for joining us on Going for the Green. Good luck with all of your wagers, and enjoy the 2021 U.S. Open.